Welcome to Hidden Ties, where every story hides a deeper truth. It was supposed to be a quiet family dinner, just a casual catch-up. But when they told me I was too much and didn't belong at the table anymore, I felt the floor drop. Then my assistant stood up and said, "CEO reporting in," and everything shifted. Before we continue, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? I'd love to know. It had started like every other family gathering. My name is Karen Willis, and I'm 52 years old. I'm the CEO of a growing tech company, and I'm used to meetings with high-stakes decisions, demanding clients, and sometimes long hours away from my personal life. But nothing had prepared me for what was about to happen at my own family's dinner table. I live in a small town, and while my company has its headquarters in the city, I like to come back home when I can. I never really got along with my extended family, but I made an effort for my mother. After all, she was aging, and I wanted to make sure I wasn't going to regret not seeing her more often. That evening, we gathered at my brother's house. Mark, my older brother, had invited us all over. His wife, Nancy, and their 2 kids, as well as my own daughter, Ella, were there too. Ella was 21, but she had been so distant lately. The tech industry had always pulled me away, and now it seemed like my relationship with her was strained. As I walked into the house, the familiar smell of lasagna hit me. I couldn't help but smile. It was a warm, comforting scent, reminding me of my childhood, when things felt simpler. Mark was already at the table chatting with Dad. Mom was setting out the bread basket. Ella was on her phone, barely looking up. Typical. "Hey, Karen, glad you could make it," Mark said, his voice louder than usual, as though he was trying to sound more enthusiastic than he felt. I set my purse down, kissed Mom's cheek, and smiled at Ella, who gave me a half-hearted wave. The evening began in the usual small talk, how work was going, the weather, the usual stuff that fills the gaps between real conversations. But something was off. There was a tension in the air that I couldn't ignore. I tried to push it aside, but when the conversation shifted to me, I could feel it building. "So, Karen," Mark said, his voice dropping a bit. "How's the business? Still CEOing it up?" I chuckled lightly. "Yeah, still running things. Busy as ever, but you know how it is. Gotta keep the wheels turning," Nancy cut in. "That's great, but don't you think it's time you took a break from all of that? You know, maybe focus on the family more?" I paused, my fork halfway to my mouth. I had heard this before, but usually it was from my mother. "Mom's not the only one worried about you," Mark added, trying to sound casual, but I could tell there was more behind his words. "What are you trying to say?" I asked, keeping my tone neutral, though my mind was racing. "You're always so busy, Karen. You've been CEO for what, 10 years now? Maybe it's time to, I don't know, step down. You've made your mark." The words hit me like a slap. Step down? From my own company? I wanted to say something, but the words didn't come out. I felt like everyone at the table was watching me, judging me. My heart began to race, but I kept my face calm, trying to process what was happening. "You've got your daughter? Don't you think she could handle it if you're not around as much?" Nancy continued. "Maybe focus on your real priorities, Karen." Real priorities? Was my company not a priority? I could feel my blood pressure rising, but I kept my voice steady. "I'm not abandoning anything. I'm just managing my time." But as the conversation continued, it became clear that my family had already made their decision. They didn't understand the demands of my job, and frankly, they didn't care. They wanted me to be more involved, more present, but what did they expect from me? Should I just quit everything I'd worked for? The conversation shifted again, and it was clear that I wasn't part of the picture anymore. It was almost as if they were cutting me off, not just from the conversation, but from the family. And that's when I felt it, the hurt, the betrayal, the suffocating feeling of being cornered, isolated, and small. My own family, the people who should have been my biggest supporters, were telling me I wasn't enough, that I wasn't doing enough. I pushed my chair back, stood up abruptly, and without saying a word, walked out the back door. I couldn't breathe in there. I stepped outside into the cool night air, my thoughts racing, hands shaking. I needed space. I needed to think. I needed a moment where I wasn't Karen Willis, CEO, or the disconnected family member. I just wanted to be me. And then, as if on cue, my phone buzzed. It was a message from my assistant, Emily. "Karen, need you to make a call when you're free. Big development at the office. CEO reporting in." Her message was straightforward, but it felt like a lifeline. I could feel my pulse returning to normal. The world wasn't as small as that table. I stood there for a minute, holding my phone, staring at the message from Emily. It wasn't the first time I'd felt overwhelmed by my job, but it was the first time I felt so unmoored from everything else in my life. The tension back inside, the judgment, the harsh words, they hit hard. I couldn't just shake it off. But that message, it was like a signal. Emily's way of reminding me why I did what I did. She was the one person who always had my back, who believed in what I was building. She didn't see me as a workaholic or a failure in some twisted family narrative. She saw me as the leader I was, no question, no judgment. I swiped my phone open and dialed her number. The familiar ringing tone echoed in my ear, calming me down just a little. "Karen!" Emily's voice was always upbeat, even on the worst of days. "You okay? I know this is a crazy time, but we need to talk." I took a deep breath. "Yeah, I'm fine, just dealing with something family-related. What's going on?" Emily hesitated for a second. "You might want to sit down for this. There's a situation brewing at the office, something big. We need to move fast." My heart skipped a beat. It wasn't often that Emily sounded this serious. "What's happened?" I asked, my voice sharper than I meant it to be. "It's a breach, Karen, a security breach." She paused. "And I'm not talking about a small one. This is bigger than we thought. Someone's trying to undermine us." I felt the weight of her words settle in my chest. My mind flashed back to all the late nights, the long hours I'd spent building this company. My team was like family to me. No one messed with my company, not without facing the consequences. I ran my hand through my hair. "Who's behind this, Emily?" "We don't know yet," she said, "but I think I know someone who might. I'm looking into it now. But I need you here, Karen. We've got a plan, but we need the CEO to make the call." The urgency in her voice jolted me out of my momentary funk. Family, in that moment, felt miles away. The business, my team, my company, they were right here, right now, and they needed me. "All right, I'm on my way," I said, with a resolve I hadn't felt all evening. "Keep me updated. I'll be there soon." I hung up and glanced back at the house. I could still hear the faint murmur of voices through the window. It was like nothing had changed inside. I could have gone back in, smiled, and pretended it didn't hurt. I could have played the part of the dutiful sister, daughter, and mother. But something about that didn't sit right with me anymore. I wasn't going to let them shame me into feeling less than I was. I was a damn CEO, no matter how much they made me feel like I didn't belong at that table. I grabbed my purse and walked back to the car. The engine roared to life, and I pulled out of the driveway without looking back. I didn't need anyone's approval to do what I knew was right. Not from my family, and certainly not from anyone who thought they could diminish me. The drive to the office felt long, but the closer I got, the clearer my thoughts became. This wasn't just about business anymore. It wasn't just about the breach or the company. It was about proving to myself that I had the strength to keep going, no matter what anyone thought. As I parked in the lot, Emily's text came through again. "We've locked down the main system, but they're still in the back door. We need you to authorize the full access. It's risky, but we can't wait." I glanced at the message, took a deep breath, and stepped out of the car. This was my world, and I wasn't going to let anyone take it from me. Inside the building, the hum of fluorescent lights filled the air. I walked through the lobby, past the security desk, and toward the elevator. My shoes clicked on the floor, the sound steady, almost comforting. As the doors closed, I felt a surge of adrenaline, but it wasn't fear, it was determination. When I reached the control room, Emily was standing by one of the large monitors. She looked up, her face etched with stress, but her posture still firm. She'd always been the calm in the storm. "Karen," she said with a small smile, "thanks for coming in. We're about to make our move." "Tell me everything," I said, taking a seat next to her and pulling my hair back into a tight ponytail. Emily clicked a few buttons on the keyboard, and the screen flashed, revealing lines of code running at lightning speed. "This is the back door they've been using. It's sophisticated, but we've traced it. They've been planning this for weeks." "Who's doing this?" I asked again, hoping for a clearer answer. She hesitated for a moment. "I don't know yet, but I think it might be someone from within our own team. It's the only explanation for how they knew the weaknesses in our system." I stared at the screen, my mind racing. I'd built this company from the ground up, and I wasn't about to let anyone take it down, especially not from the inside. "We'll track them down, Emily. We're going to fix this." She nodded and typed furiously. "I'm pulling up everything we've got. I'll trace the IP address and see where it's coming from. It's time to end this." "Do it," I said, watching the screen with a sense of quiet authority. As Emily worked, I couldn't help but feel the irony of the situation. Earlier tonight, my family had made me feel like I was insignificant, like I didn't matter anymore. But now, here I was, in the place where I felt strongest, right at the heart of my company. This was where I was meant to be. The breach wasn't just a technical challenge, it was personal. Whoever was behind this wanted to take what I had built. They wanted to tear it all down. But they didn't understand me. They didn't understand how far I was willing to go to protect what was mine. As the hours passed, the room around me seemed to shrink. The constant click-clack of keys, the low hum of servers working overtime, everything felt like it was pushing me further into my zone. I could see Emily's fingers flying across the keyboard, each click bringing us closer to understanding who was behind the breach. But even as we got closer, I couldn't shake the gnawing feeling in my gut. Whoever this was, they knew our systems inside out. This wasn't some amateur move, it was calculated. And I wasn't going to let my company crumble without a fight. Emily glanced over at me, her face pale. "Karen, I've got something. It's the IP address. It's coming from inside our office." "What do you mean, inside our office?" I asked, leaning in closer. "Are you sure?" She nodded. I traced it. "The signal is coming from one of our sub-offices. It's from the marketing department." I felt a chill run through me. Marketing? No, that couldn't be right. Those were my people, my team. The ones who always believed in the vision, who worked late nights with me, brainstorming ideas, pushing campaigns. The thought of one of them betraying me felt impossible. I couldn't understand it. "Are you sure, Emily? Can you double-check?" I asked, hoping against reason that she was wrong. She didn't hesitate. "I'm sure. The IP has been pinging off the server in real time, and it's only accessible from within the department." I stood up, feeling the weight of her words pressing down on me. My mind raced. Who could it be? Who would want to sabotage me and everything we had worked for? There were so many people to consider, so many potential suspects. Just then, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from Ella. I had almost forgotten about her, but the timing felt oddly synchronistic. I opened it quickly. "Mom, I need to talk to you. Can we meet?" I frowned. Ella rarely reached out like this. We hadn't been on the best terms lately, and her message felt urgent, different from the usual casual texts I got from her. Something was off, but in that moment, I couldn't afford to lose focus. "I'll reply later," I muttered, putting the phone face down on the desk. "Emily, let's go over the marketing department's access logs," I said, shifting my attention back to the task at hand. "I want to know who's been in there, who's had access to the servers, and when." Emily immediately got to work. Her ability to handle this kind of pressure never ceased to impress me. As she typed, I began pacing around the room, lost in thought. If the breach was coming from marketing, it could only be one of a few people who had the expertise to execute it, people I'd trusted. But could it really be someone I'd worked with so closely? I couldn't imagine it, but I couldn't afford to rule anything out. "Karen," Emily said, breaking my train of thought. She sounded tense. "I found something strange. There's one person who's been accessing the system more than anyone else. His name's Carl Anders." I froze. Carl Anders, the head of the marketing department, my right-hand man, the one person I never thought would betray me. "Carl?" I whispered, almost to myself. It didn't make sense. Emily was watching me closely. "He's been logging in after hours, several times in the last week, and his access doesn't show up on the usual monitoring logs. It's like he's been covering his tracks." I shook my head. This couldn't be happening. Carl was loyal, wasn't he? He had always been the one to step up when things got tough. He'd been there when I needed him, staying late to help with campaigns, putting in the hours. This was the man I'd trusted above all others. "Can you track his last login?" I asked, trying to steady my voice. Emily clicked a few more keys. "Yeah, it was 2 hours ago. He's in his office right now. The login was from his desktop." I looked up at her, my mind racing. "Call security. We need to get to his office." Emily's eyes widened in shock, but she didn't question me. She immediately picked up the phone and dialed security. I turned toward the door, feeling a mix of dread and determination. It had to be him. It just had to be. But what if it wasn't? What if I was wrong? The door swung open and one of the security guards entered, nodding toward us. "We're on it, Karen. We'll head to Carl's office now." I nodded, my heart pounding. The next few minutes felt like an eternity, but they were necessary. I couldn't let this go unchecked, not with everything at stake. As we walked down the corridor, I couldn't help but feel a sense of betrayal creeping in. I had been the one to bring Carl on board. I had trusted him with the keys to the kingdom, and now it seemed like he might be the one to destroy it all. We reached Carl's office, and the guard knocked before opening the door. To my surprise, Carl wasn't at his desk. The office was empty. I felt a rush of panic surge through me. "Where is he?" The security guard stepped into the room and began scanning. "We'll find him, Karen. Don't worry." But I couldn't shake the feeling that we were already too late. Whoever had been behind this, whether Carl or someone else, they had gotten too close. It was almost as if the walls of the company were closing in on me. I stepped into Carl's office, taking in the space that had once felt so familiar, so safe. But now, it was just another place where betrayal could hide. As I looked around, I noticed something strange. Carl's laptop was still open on his desk, but the screen was dark. I walked over to the desk and clicked the mouse, the screen flickering back to life. What I saw next made my blood run cold. There, on the screen, was a list of transfer logs, large sums of money sent to offshore accounts, all linked to Carl's personal email. It was unmistakable. Carl was the one behind the breach. Before I could process what I was seeing, I heard footsteps behind me. "Karen?" I spun around to see my assistant, Emily, standing in the doorway, her expression unreadable. "Emily?" I asked, my voice shaking. "What's going on? Do you know about this?" She hesitated for a moment, her gaze flickering between me and the laptop screen. Finally, she stepped forward. "I do, and there's more, Karen. I've been tracking Carl's movements. I found something that'll blow this all wide open." My breath caught in my chest as Emily moved closer, her gaze still fixed on the screen. I was almost afraid to ask the question, but I had no choice. "What did you find, Emily?" She hesitated for a moment before speaking, her voice low but clear. "I didn't just track Carl's actions. I've been monitoring the transfers. And it's bigger than just him, Karen. There's someone else involved, someone high up in the company." I felt the ground beneath me shift. "What do you mean? Who else?" Emily stepped back, giving me room to breathe. "I'm sorry, Karen, but I think you need to see this." She opened another window on the screen. This time it was a series of encrypted messages, chains of emails, oddly familiar ones. I recognized some of the names, but one stood out. It was from an old colleague, one who I hadn't spoken to in years, Mark Jacobs. My stomach dropped. Mark had been the head of the tech department when I first started the company, a brilliant man. But we had parted ways after some disagreements about the direction of the company. I had thought he moved on to other ventures, but now, seeing his name attached to this mess, everything changed. What the hell is he doing involved in this? I whispered to myself. Emily looked up from the screen, her face grim. He's the one who's been providing Carl with the tools to bypass the system. He's the one who helped him with the security breach. My head spun as the pieces started to fall into place. Mark had always been smart, resourceful, and when we parted ways, it had been with a sense of unfinished business. I'd always believed he was bitter about being let go, but this was personal, and it was dangerous. I tried to steady myself, but the anger bubbled up. This is insane. Why would Mark do this? Why would he help Carl? Emily shook her head. We don't have all the answers yet, but I think they've been working together for months. They've been siphoning funds and selling company secrets. It's an inside job, Karen, and they've been using your trust in Carl to get away with it. I felt a knot tighten in my chest. This wasn't just a breach of security, it was a betrayal on a level I couldn't even begin to comprehend. And now it was my job to clean up the mess. But even as I thought about the enormity of what had just been uncovered, another thought struck me. Carl wasn't just an employee. He was someone who had been with me through the toughest times, someone I'd relied on. How could I have been so blind? I need to talk to Carl, I said, my voice shaking but firm. I need to confront him about this. Emily looked at me, her concern evident. Karen, you don't have to do this alone. We've got the evidence, and we've got security. We can handle this, but it might get messy. I don't want you to do something you'll regret. But I already knew what I had to do. I wasn't going to let Carl or Mark destroy everything I had worked so hard to build. If I didn't confront them now, if I didn't make them face the consequences of their actions, it would haunt me forever. I stood up and walked toward the door, the weight of my decision heavy in my chest. I have to face this. We're not backing down. Not this time. The security guard who had been standing in the doorway nodded, his expression professional but wary. We're ready whenever you are, Karen. I glanced back at Emily one last time before stepping out of Carl's office. Stay close, Emily. I'll need backup. We made our way through the building, the silence between us heavy. My mind was racing with thoughts of confrontation, of anger, of betrayal. The closer we got to Carl's office, the more I felt like I was walking into the lion's den. But there was no turning back now. When we reached Carl's office, I pushed open the door without knocking. Carl was sitting at his desk, his back turned to us. The moment he heard the door open, he froze, his shoulders tensing. I stepped inside, my voice cold as I spoke. Carl. He slowly turned around, his face pale, his eyes shifting nervously. Karen, what are you doing here? Don't play dumb with me, I said, my words sharp and direct. We know everything, the transfers, the emails, the security breach. You're done. Carl's face drained of color. He stood up slowly, his hands trembling slightly. Karen, please, it's not what you think. I can explain. Explain? I interrupted. You've been selling out this company, Carl. You've been using my trust, using everything I've built to line your pockets. And you're telling me you can explain? He opened his mouth, but no words came out. He looked down at the desk as if searching for the right thing to say. But there was nothing. He knew it. He knew it was over. Why, Carl? I asked, my voice softer now, but still filled with the weight of the betrayal. I trusted you. You were my right-hand man. Carl sighed, running a hand through his hair. I never meant for it to go this far, Karen. It started as a way to cover some personal debts, but then Then Mark got involved, and it spiraled. We thought we could get away with it. I thought we could. Enough! I cut him off. I don't want to hear it. I turned to the security guard behind me. Take him away. The guard stepped forward, his hand gripping Carl's arm gently but firmly. Come with me, sir. Carl didn't resist. He didn't even look at me as they escorted him out of the room. I stood there, alone, staring at the empty space where Carl had been just moments ago, and then I heard Emily's voice from behind me. Karen, she said softly, you did the right thing. It's over now. But I didn't feel relieved. I didn't feel victorious. I just felt empty, like everything I thought I knew about loyalty and trust had been shattered in an instant. I nodded, though, knowing I had no other choice. Yeah, it's over, but at what cost? Before Emily could respond, my phone buzzed again. I glanced down, expecting another message from the office or about the breach, but this time it wasn't. It was from Ella. The message was simple. Mom, please meet me. It's important. I need to tell you something. I stared at the text, my stomach sinking once more. There was no time to process what had just happened, not when my daughter was asking for me. I could feel my pulse quicken as I stared at the message from Ella, my heart torn between the battle I had just fought within the company and the raw, nagging worry about what my daughter needed to tell me. I didn't know why, but something in the way she phrased the text set off a sense of dread. I had just dismantled a betrayal from the inside of my company, ripped apart the trust I'd placed in Carl, my right-hand man. I had let security take him away, removed him from the company like the cancer he'd become. But now, I had to face something even more personal. Ella. My mind, already stretched thin from the chaos of the last few hours, couldn't grasp the weight of everything happening all at once. My emotions were raw, the adrenaline still pumping from the confrontation, and yet my mind kept circling back to that nagging question. What does Ella want? Karen, are you all right? Emily's voice broke through my thoughts. I glanced up at her, feeling a wave of gratitude mixed with guilt. She had been with me through all of this, through the digital attacks, the betrayal, and now, standing at my side when everything had come crashing down. I don't know if I'm all right, Emily, but I need to take care of something else, I said, my voice shaking slightly. Emily's face softened, her concern evident. What is it? Is there something else going on? I held up my phone, showing her Ella's message. It's Ella. She wants to meet. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't feel right. Do you need me to come with you? She offered, clearly wanting to help. But I could already feel the weight of the moment. I needed to do this on my own. No, I said, shaking my head. I'll handle it. But stay close, just in case. Emily nodded, understanding the unspoken tension. She gave me a reassuring smile before stepping back. Take care of yourself, Karen. You've earned it. I quickly made my way to the elevator, my thoughts spiraling. I had no idea what I was about to walk into, but the urgency in Ella's message gnawed at me. I thought of all the moments she'd been there for me, all the years I'd poured into being a mother. Was this the cost of my focus on the company? Had I failed her in some way? When I reached the lobby of the building, I didn't even hesitate before stepping into my car. The drive to the cafe Ella had suggested felt endless, my mind working overtime, imagining the worst. As I approached the small, intimate coffee shop, I saw Ella sitting by the window, her back to me. She looked so different than I remembered. Her usual vibrant energy was gone. She seemed smaller, thinner, fragile in a way I hadn't seen before. The vibrant young woman who had once seemed so sure of herself now looked like she was carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. I hesitated before entering. My breath caught in my throat. This wasn't the Ella I knew. This was someone broken. I walked up to her, and she looked up, her eyes empty, almost as if she had been staring through me. Her face tightened when she saw me, like she'd been expecting someone else. "Mom," she said softly, the words carrying an undertone of something that wasn't quite fear but wasn't relief either. Thank you for coming. I sat down across from her, trying to keep my composure. Ella, what's going on? Why did you ask to meet? You're scaring me. She opened her mouth, then closed it again, as if the words she was about to say didn't fit the moment. Her hands trembled as she pushed a coffee cup aside, making room for something she had placed in front of her. It was a small, thin envelope. I reached out to grab it, but she stopped me. No, not yet, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I need to tell you something first. My heart started to pound. This wasn't just a casual conversation. This was serious. I've been involved in something, she continued, her eyes flickering to the envelope, then back to me. And it's going to change everything, for both of us. I felt the air around me tighten. What do you mean, Ella? What is it? Her lips quivered as she swallowed, struggling to find the right words. I don't know how to say this, but I've been working with Carl and Mark. I froze. My blood turned to ice in my veins. My mind scrambled to process the betrayal that now cut through me like a knife. How could this be happening? I don't know how it happened, but I was scared, she said, her voice trembling. I wanted to help you, Mom, but I got pulled in. They said it would be quick, that no one would ever know. They said I was helping protect the company, but I was wrong. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. The world felt like it was collapsing around me. Not only had Carl betrayed me, not only had Mark been scheming from the sidelines, but now my own daughter was involved. It didn't make sense. It felt like a nightmare. I couldn't believe the words coming out of her mouth. Ella, why didn't you tell me? My voice cracked as the reality of the situation hit me like a freight train. I was afraid, she whispered. Afraid of losing you, of you being disappointed in me. I didn't want you to think I was part of it, but I was. And now it's too late. I've already been helping Carl and Mark cover their tracks. They were using me to hide some of the transfers. They knew I'd never tell you. The anger inside me flared up, sharp and blistering, but beneath it, there was a profound sadness. A sadness I didn't know how to process. This wasn't just about betrayal. This was my daughter, the one person I thought I'd raised to be better than this, caught in something she could never undo. I stared at the envelope between us. What's in there, Ella? What's this? She took a shaky breath before pushing the envelope toward me. This is the proof. Everything. If you want to end it, to make sure Carl and Mark don't get away with it, you need to see what's in there. With trembling hands, I opened the envelope, pulling out a stack of documents. They were copies of transfer logs, receipts, even internal emails. Everything that tied Ella to Carl and Mark's scheme. I could see everything now, all of it laid out in front of me like a trail of destruction. This is it, I whispered. This is the end. Ella nodded, her eyes full of regret. I didn't want this, Mom, I swear, but now I'm asking you. Please, don't let me be part of this anymore. Help me make it right. I looked at her, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I saw my daughter for who she really was. Vulnerable, scared, but also strong enough to face her mistakes. Ella, we're going to fix this, I said, my voice steady now, despite everything. But it's not going to be easy, and you're going to have to own up to what you've done. But together, we'll make it right. As I reached across the table, taking her hand in mine, I realized that this moment, this painful, heartbreaking moment, was the beginning of something new, a new chapter for both of us, one where trust would be rebuilt, even if it meant facing the hardest truths. We weren't done yet, but we were going to get through this together. Before we could speak again, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I looked down, the screen lighting up with a new message from Emily. The authorities are here. Carl and Mark are under arrest. It was finally over, but now I had something more important to focus on. I squeezed Ella's hand. It's time to fix this, for good. And with that, the journey toward healing began.